Hi everybody, Mr. Stewart here. Just thought I would record a screencast for you to show how I chose to use the competing interests bracket to help think and manage some of my own interests. So this is the form that you can find online. That is on our course webpage. You can use that, or you can choose just to simply sketch it on a piece of paper and keep that in your notebook for future reference. So what I chose to do, and I'll show you um, my completed sheet in a moment, but I added in a couple of extra columns, and I'll show you why in a moment. But to do that, if you right click on the column header, that happens to be column B, you can simply click insert and it will give you another column. And then if you want to widen that out, just come on up in here to one of the borders or margins of the column and click and drag it over, and you can create columns that way. Reason being is that I wanted to create a couple of categories to track the different types of interests, and all of this has been inspired by some reading I did over the summer. I'll just show you here the author's name. Down here at the bottom you can see that um, this work here was inspired by A.J. Giuliani's Inquiry and Innovation in the Classroom, using 20% time, genius hour, and problem-based learning to drive student success. Okay, so just so you know that this great idea, I'm borrowing that particular idea to accomplish something or to help you accomplish something here in our classroom. Um, so I'm very thankful that that resource exists for teachers out there, or for anybody who's interested in inquiry. So you can see two categories, consumption and creation. So these are two broad categories that describe or could describe the types of interests we have. So consumption, meaning to consume, or activities that consume our time, and not to be taken as kind of a negative, that is, this takes up so much of my time, but these are just simply things that we do with our time, and a lot of these things, as you can see on my list, are really important things, and some maybe not. So in column B, I've broken it down into kind of a time of day thing. So I've got my weekend mornings, when I'm off work, earlier in the evening. I've got late evening here doubled. I'll delete that. So I'll just kind of go through some of these things. So weekend mornings, coffee. I do enjoy, one or maybe two cups of coffee on a weekend morning. And there are other things that happen at that time. Usually I'm talking with, either my son or my wife. So I could put that in there, sort of family discussion, that kind of thing. Breakfast, right? Time off work. I've put in some of my interests. So gardening, I have a home garden. I like to kayak, hanging out with my family, doing a little bit of reading. So you kind of get the gist there. And if you keep on going, you can see some other things that I do. Of course, I haven't listed them all, and I'd have to go back and keep adding to the bracket. Here under creation, um, these are those activities. These are those kinds of activities that involve sort of a creative aspect. So these are things that our mind might kind of wander off to, and kind of take us away from all of the other things that we might do that takes up our time, but these purely have a creative aspect to them. So there's a few things that I've listed. So here I've mentioned blogging, so I have a blog. um, like many of us, I enjoy social media both personally and for education. So Twitter, Facebook, etc. Screencasting, now that's more for education, but I do spend a lot of time creating these things. I like to try out different apps, different web-based things online. I like creating resources and supports for, students and for other teachers. So there's a lot of different things that I can just keep on adding to the list. And, you know, a lot of these things are interesting to me as you have your own interests. But if we were to narrow down the list to those things that we find really important or things that we are passionate about that kind of drive us to, to want to learn or to try new things or to work as hard as we can, um, we have to kind of narrow those down. So that's what the bracket's for. So up here under consumption, coffee versus family discussion. Well, I'm going to go with family discussion, right? That's going to trump coffee. I like coffee, but I like my family more than coffee. Gardening and kayaking, really tough choice. Um, oh, I'm going to go with gardening. Go with gardening. I guess that comes from my roots growing up on a farm. So I really enjoy getting out on the water, but I kind of like gardening as well. So you can see hanging out with family, reading, etc. That all, I'm just going to go through the same process all the way through. So then over here, let's see, family discussion, gardening. Well, my family is really important to me, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it. So that's the idea there. Paste that in. So far you can kind of see how these interests are competing, but certain ones we feel a little more passionate about. Down here under the creation side of things, blogging and social media, um, both are really powerful tools, but right now I seem to have, a greater interest in social media. So I'm going to kind of stick with that. Screencast, trying out apps, etc. So I just continued going through that process. And then eventually, not that it has to happen in this moment, but over the next few weeks, I'm going to hopefully narrow things down that, not that the rest of it's not important, but I might come up with one, maybe two things if I extend my table to have another major passion or interest over here. I'm going to quickly figure out that which really drives me, to want to learn and to try things out. So once we've narrowed that down, we can maybe take a hold of those passions and interests and use them in our classroom. So that's the idea behind the competing interests bracket. So once again, sketch it out, take some time to start listing. You don't have to narrow it down to one thing. If you simply start by creating a list of, let me go back here, a list of consumption versus creative type activities, and then just maybe fill out a list here. Just kind of go through, add in a few ideas, and leave it at that. Put it in the notebook, and just make sure that you have it in class in the event that I do, want to have a discussion with you about some of those interests. Okay, so thanks for watching, and good luck with your competing interests bracket.